everything that I know says I gotta go, tired of going solo. But I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is, this is who I am, this is where I finally take my stand. I didn't wanna fall, but I don't have to crawl. I'm not the one with two dark hands, giving him the best of everything that's left of the life inside this man. I've been born again.
Have you been born again, Dave?
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Saved by the blood.
The precious blood.
The blood of Jesus.
Yes, ma'am.
Amen.
Yes,
Our
yes,
sacrifice.
Sir. Yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Fresh Black Coffee.
Yeah.
Not stale, not old, not cold.
Yeah.
It's fresh.
How do you like your coffee?
I like it with lots of cream and sugar, or as they used to say, I like my cream and sugar with coffee.
I am exactly the same way.
Oh, you know?
Half and half. I sometimes I treat myself to heavy whipping cream.
Yeah. Well, see, I like that Carnation's sweetened cream. Actually, the best one I found is the it's an Italian sweet cream. It's called. Yeah, that's the one I use. And,
yeah.
But I really have been trying not to drink much of that because that really will put pounds on you. I found.
Oh yeah.
That sweet cream, the stuff you buy, the Carnation stuff. So now I get my coffee this way with, you can't see it too well, but it's Coca-Cola coffee.
Yeah.
It's Coke and coffee mixed, and it's almost as addictive as drugs. I really like this stuff, and this is like breakfast. I won't eat breakfast or lunch. Sometimes I'll just drink a can of this. I'm good to go.
There you go.
Good to go.
Yeah.
So anyway, no, this is good stuff. In fact, I'll take a sip. By the way, I want you to know, Coca-Cola is not a sponsor of this.
They ought to be.
Yeah, they
an
should
endorsement
be.
like that.
Yeah, but I don't know. They kind of made me mad with that whole. Remember this summer? You remember the head of Coca-Cola in Atlanta with the whole election thing?
Oh yeah.
You know, where they decided in Georgia they were going to rewrite the election laws and rules. So Coca-Cola went in. So I really probably should be boycotting, but I'm not. I'm not a hypocrite. So I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not boycotting. I'm not trying to get anybody to boycott. But no, seriously, that did make me kind of mad. At least Disney, though, the latest news, in case you have not heard, is Bob Iger has been brought back in. They fired the old CEO, the most recent CEO. He's gone.
The prophecy of Donald Trump comes true. Whatever goes woke goes broke.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, look what Netflix had to do about face.
They have.
Remember a few years ago, J.C. Penney. They were catering to the gays to the exclusion of the typical housewife, which is where most of their money is, women shoppers.
May it only continue. May it only continue to be so. Yeah, it's funny. At last time I heard, it's probably higher now, but I think less than 3%, at least at that time. I think it was like less than 2% or maybe even 1% of America was homosexual, and yet everywhere you looked, it was like gays were everywhere. Right. And when you look at TV now, the commercials, the TV shows, they have to have a gay scene or a gay couple or something involving a gay, either male or female relationship involved in some kind of way. The other thing now, and I saw it coming several years ago, even on country music. I saw it on CMT, Country Music TV, where the commercials, it was almost every commercial had black people. I mean, I'm not talking about a black person that happened to be in a commercial. It was like primarily black people on country music. And now you're starting to see where they're emphasizing gays in the commercials. And it's just, and listen, trust me, it's not a coincidence. This is not a coincidence.
So here's my thing. All of a sudden, ever since the whole George Floyd thing, it was like, we've got to increase the amount of black people in movies and TV in the different roles. And you know what they came out with this last week? They're complaining because they're casting black people as the bad guy, as the villain.
I saw that, yeah.
And it's like, you want it both ways, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to limit the number of roles or stereotype them as just this little sect. Oh.
But we can't have any black villains.
Yeah. Blacks can only be the good guy, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
So, anyway, but get back to coffee, because, see, this is how we transition. We went from Coke to boycotts to all this. I won't do anymore the artificial creamer. I got to have the real dairy product.
The real. So you actually... You squeeze that right into your coffee?
No, I get half and half, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys have realized, half and half's had a shortage in the market for the last 4 months. Walmart told me they get very rationed on how much they get.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. Okay, so what makes it half and half? It's half what and half what else?
It's half heavy cream and half 2% milk.
Okay, now, how do you get milk at 2%? So okay,
yeah,
okay. All right, so if you get half heavy cream and half 2%, how does that actually end up to whole? What percentage do you really?
Well, whole milk is 3.
So do you have like
52%
milk?
Yeah. I don't
What's the other 48%?
But anyway, they basically they're cream, heavy cream product, and they're milk product, and they just mix them 50% of each by volume.
Right, but if one's only 50%, one's only 2%, you actually only have 52%, right?
Okay.
50. Okay. I love this. Don't you? This is what you tune in for every week. You don't get this elsewhere. Only here on Fresh
That's right.
Coffee.
Yeah. Only here. Only Eddie.
This is where my mind. Where I've always been this way. I just cannot accept just the normal stuff, right?
I could recommend a good therapist, Eddie.
Yeah, see, you're into that. See, to me, therapists are a waste of money and a waste of time. Every person, in fact, I'm going to rant a little bit here. Here we go, Dave.
Okay, get ready for a response.
Push your button.
Okay.
Every person I know that's ever gone to marriage counseling has gotten a divorce. Mm. So, yeah, I recommend people that if you have issues with your marriage, go to the Lord and you work it out. Because either you want to stay married or you don't. My wife and I, my parents, they had some knockdown dragouts. I remember waking up when I was a little boy to the pots and pans and dishes flying. Okay. Yet they were married for 50-some years until my dad passed away. Okay. I remember the movie War of Roses with Danny DeVito, and then, of course, it was, I can't remember his name, Michael Douglas, and Kathleen Turner. Horrible movie. But there's one thing I remember about the film, and they went to see Danny DeVito, who is their attorney, and I don't know if he's attorney or marriage counselor. Anyway, he had a line, he was telling them about his parents. He says, God bless their departed souls. He said, married 62 years, and they even had a couple of good ones. I'll never forget. I'll never forget the line. But you know, and they were Jewish parents. But I remember when my wife and I, before we got married, we went through the counseling, premarital counseling with our pastor, and he told us that he said, you're in love, obviously. I know that. Everybody in this church knows that we've known you for some time. And so we believe you guys really love each other.
Making out in the back pew. No. Oh, that would be me.
Whoa.
Oh, Debbie and I had to be separated.
Wow.
Church,
wow.
Yeah.
See, we were never the ODA type. We were the PDA, private display of affection. Yeah, we were very private. But anyway, but he said that's going to fade. He said every couple that comes in here for counseling, they always say or think they're in love and so forth. But he says, what's going to happen when love fades? He said, it's that commitment. He said, once you commit, and My wife and I have been married now for 46 years. 46 years. And we're going on 47. So, and man, I mean, I'll tell you what, there were some times where she could have, I almost said should have, should have left me. And there's some times where I could have left her, or at least in my mind. I probably shouldn't have, but in my mind, I could have. Some people would. But this is just something that, those words that he gave us always stuck in my mind. Now, my wife a few times has wanted to go to counseling. And I've always rejected it. I've always said no, because what I see happening at a marriage counselor, it just brings more issues to your mind and more to think about and to dwell on and ferment, and sometimes it just makes it worse than it makes it better. And so, like I said, the bottom line, in fact, in Galatians, I believe it's just read the whole book. But I think it's the 4th chapter of Galatians where it says that we war against, the spirit wars against the flesh. And that you have to decide, are you going to yield to the flesh or are you going to yield to the spirit? There's no in between. You have to yield to one or the other. But as you yield to one, that one becomes stronger and the other one diminishes. So if you give into the flesh, it will continue to grow stronger, and the other one diminishes, and that one wins. And so if you feed the flesh, it wins. If you feed the spirit, it will win. So these are the things as believers that we should know, and if we know them, we should obey them. Yeah. And so anyway, that's just
I've got a great response, and I'm probably going to validate a lot of what you're saying here. You remember Dr. Laura Schlesinger? Yeah, and she was, clinician,
Jewish lady.
Yeah, therapist. By training, she had a doctorate.
Right.
She said she's generally against psychotherapy because, and listen to this, most people, she said, come out of it more selfish than they go when they went into it. Okay? Debbie and I have sought counsel. Personally, I've sought counsel. Personally, my wife has, and together we have. But one of the things that we made agreement with each other on when we each went to see counsel is that therapist has to know that our family is their client, not just the individual. Because I've got some in-laws that one of them went to see a counselor, and she finally just says, you know what, you need to divorce your husband because he's the one causing all your mental anguish in your life. And psychotherapists, Eddie, there's good and there's bad.
Yeah, no, right? I agree.
And the problem is, it's these psychotherapists that only see that one person as their client. They just want to get rid of everybody who causes drama in their life. And you know what, Eddie? That makes for a very lonely life.
It does.
So that's where I'm at. Now, Eddie, you've been an athletic coach, right? A soccer coach, other things. You had coaching. You were a college athlete. Right. And coaching is good. And in our behavior, in our lives, it's good to have mentors speaking into our lives that we regularly. And so your therapist can be that, your coach, your pastor, maybe your mother-in-law. I don't know. Anyway, but I really think it's important. Debbie, you got me back connected with Amazon Prime Network, and one of the shows Debbie and I always used to love watching, and we've watched it over again, is Mad About You. In one of the episodes, they've got this psychotherapist who probably has more issues in her own life, and so they go to some event or reception at her place, and they run into this other guy. He's a psychotherapist, and he's just brilliant. He communicates so well and everything. So they switch therapists. And, I mean, he serves them a meal at their session. They're talking, they're eating, everything. And then they find out how much he charges and cut to the scene. They're back to the therapist that they can afford. There's good and there's bad.
Right.
And I've served on boards with many professional therapists, as a mental health advocate and stuff. I think you're onto something here, Eddie. I think mentoring, counseling, it's good. Here's the other thing I want to say on marriage counseling. It's unique in that. Because I watched my parents go through that for years. And they devolved to a very childish, I'm telling our counselor on you.
That's good.
And they go to the counselor. And here's the other thing I want to say. And this is my daughter-in-law's...
Telling my counselor on you.
Yeah. My daughter-in-law's father has been a senior pastor for years. Mike Goolsbay is at Destiny Church. He's retired from that now. But he gave a really good bit of advice. He says, "Man, you want to save yourself a lot of therapy, counseling charges? Take time to listen to your spouse. You don't always have to agree with them." He said, a lot of times it isn't that a woman wants you to agree with her. She wants to be understood. Just listen. Because some things can't be fixed, but at least if they've had a chance to say and they feel like, okay, he hears what I'm saying.
There's two things that came to my mind. One of age-old, the wisdom of Amos and Andy. I remember watching as a little boy. I was probably 9 years old, maybe even younger, 7 or 8. And certain things never leave your mind. And Amos and Andy, I guess I could only have been 8 or 9 years old, yet I will never forget Amos and Andy. For the young people who never had the pleasure of being allowed to watch Amos and Andy, I feel sorry for you, because it truly was one of the greatest comedic shows ever on television.
Now, they started at radio.
Right.
But they made the switch to TV.
Right. Well, what's funny is the radio version of Amos and Andy were two white guys pretending to be black.
Yeah.
And then when they made it, the switch to TV.
You can't lip sync that.
No. And blackface wouldn't have done it. When they made the switch to TV, then they had black actors and actresses. But they had an episode where Kingfish, who was the original, Andy.
The shyster,
Andy,
right?
Yeah, Andy. Andy, I think I told you the one where he was trying to convince his friend Andy to buy into a mink farm.
Yeah.
Did I tell you that one?
Yeah.
And he had an old stuffed coyote.
Yeah.
And he said, Andy, that's one of them long-legged minks.
Yeah.
Anyway, if there's a way you can find, if you've never seen it, if there's a way on YouTube somewhere you can find Amos and Andy clips, priceless, okay?
Yep.
But anyway, so there's an episode where Kingfish and Sapphire, that was his wife's name, Sapphire, where they go to marriage counseling. And somewhere like after about 2 episodes, and they're just so enamored with these marriage counselors. It's a husband and a wife marriage counselor team. And about after 2 visits, they find out the marriage counselor and his wife are just have a horrible relationship, and they're getting a divorce. And so Amos and Andy end up being marriage counselors. I mean, Kingfish and Sapphire are ending up becoming marriage counselors and the whole deal. But there's kind of a point there that the counselors, being counselors, actually created more problems than just being the couple that visits the counselors, And they always had some underlying theme. I mean, really, it was pretty incredible. And the thing, and the other thing was something you said. The greatest thing that has kept my relationship together, and the reason that I can say I have 46 years of marriage, is that I had a pastor, and I had parents, and examples that I look to to cause me to stick with it.
Yeah.
And to look at and realize the first example obviously is the Word of God, and to understand that when I made a commitment, I made a commitment. And actually, even before I got married, I always said, even before I was a Christian, I think I said I'm only doing this once. I did, and I always said if it doesn't work, it's just I'm not doing it again.
Yeah.
But I've always been, and once I got married, that's been. So, we just have an understanding. You realize that there's still two different people with two individual lives, two individual visions of life, child raising. I had a certain way I was raised. For example, my dad, in our family, my parents really didn't argue. When I was talking about the pots and pans flying, is because my dad had a gambling addiction when he got started. He never had a drinking problem, but he had and he would lose an entire month's paycheck or cash in those days from the Army. And so my mother learned that when he got paid, she could only live on half a month's pay, because she had to take the other half and save it for the next month. Wow. Or if my dad came home and he would win a big winning, he was, one thing I've said about my dad, he was good. He would always give my mother whatever he had. And so if he came home with winnings, she would take that and she would stick it away and save it. But the pots and pans flying, or the noise, was always because he would do something stupid like gamble away the money or something. But I learned from my dad that when things got really bad, he would just walk out. He would never yell at her. He would never think about hitting her. He said two things you don't do around women: you don't curse at women, and you never hit a woman. Those are two things. And so that's something I've never done. And I remember one time, my mother threw a knife at my dad. Yeah, it was because of me.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was a stupid. Yeah, it was breakfast, and I didn't want to eat. I just don't like breakfast in the morning. My mom got up and fried eggs, and I don't want an egg. So she, with her German impulsive self, grabbed up and threw the eggs in. And my dad, with his Mississippi upbringing, you don't waste food. Are you nuts? Why are you throwing this food away? You make him eat it. That was his thing. And so she said, she probably had something else on her mind.
Yeah,
too.
I got the feeling there was
but anyway, so he walks to the kitchen, and she's there at the sink, and she grabs a knife and turns around and throws it at him, and it misses, hits the door. Rather than say anything or do anything, he just looked, turned around, and he just walked over, went in his room, got his coat, his hat, and walked out.
Yeah.
And I had a football game that morning. Can you imagine? I went to, and I didn't want to go home. I was just worried. My parents are going to get a divorce. So what am I going to do? What's going on? I couldn't. I started praying. I wasn't a Christian. I'm still praying. And I didn't know. I come home finally sometime 5 or 6 that evening, and it was quiet in the house. They were in the bedroom, something, and I didn't hear anything. It was quiet. And I was just praying next morning. Finally, somewhere around lunch the next day, it was like nothing. They were fine. They were just business as usual.
Yeah.
And so I've learned that. But my wife, it was always a thing. You got to talk it out. You got to work it out. And so we've had to, and I'm like that still. I don't need to work it out. I'm the type. If I go to bed tonight, tomorrow, I probably won't even remember what it was about yesterday. Yeah. And so those are the two things you have to let work out between you to understand how one person works things out, how the other person works. That's true. And you can't get offended just because you want to sit there and argue it out, and this one doesn't want to argue it out, because now you're just making them mad and you're ignoring. So somehow you have to learn each other's ways.
And you can't be selfish. Right. Selfishness is what destroys a marriage. Right. right? I wanted one more thing, and you got onto it a little bit about, the voices you listen to, what you allow to control you. Kenneth Hagin, who's a mentor of mine, went to school and stuff. He's Old Line Pentecost. He said there would be a whole lot less need for Monday morning counseling in the pastor study if there was more time spent at the altar Sunday night. Because some of these things are about giving up, offering yourself to God, and seeing yourself as a servant rather than, I want my way. I deserve 50-50. I didn't get my half. And so I remember, I've shared, well, I'll use my mom example. My dad actually spent 9 months in state mental hospital when I was 2. Had a, severe breakdown. My mom was just determined she was going to get a divorce. But without my dad there all those months, and then going to visit him and talking to the doctors, she got beyond seeing his faults and started to understand his needs. And that's a lot of it, is understanding, you got needs. Like, your dad didn't want to talk sometime. To him, it was probably better for everybody if he goes cools off, right? But you got to be able to be there. I'll just give you one example. My mother had one of those pots and pans episodes in my life, but it happened to be the night before my youngest brother was born. Well, she was going into labor, and didn't know, and I got out of the house because I had to babysit for the neighbor's kids. I was like 13, and I come back, I don't know what I'm going to come home to, and that. And then they were suddenly calming out. The house is spotless. She was in that nesting phase, right? Where everything's got to be right. And she says, there's another one. How long's it been, Art? 2.5 minutes. Maybe we should go to the hospital. Yeah.
And I learned, in fact, my dad was in, where was he? He was in Vietnam, or he was somewhere. He was not home, and my mom and I got into it, and I just learned from my dad rather than my mom and I got into this big thing, and so I followed his example. I just walked. So anyway, I learned from my dad, so my mom and I had gotten into it, and I just walked out the door, and I was gone for several hours, and I came home, and everything was good. And so I was always pretty quiet, and then when my wife and I first got married, my wife is more of an argumentative type, because that, and I don't say argue for the argument's sake, but just in her family, they argued things out. I guess that's how she grew up, and that's how you dealt with it. She had siblings. Yeah. I didn't. It was just me. I didn't have anybody to argue with. Yeah. And sure. So I remember. I never raised my voice. Because that's not the way it was done in the Huff household. So after a while, I started doing the same. Well, I remembered how it went in my household growing up, and I decided I'm going to start doing the same thing. So I just, I would just do the same. I would just let it go. I'd leave and come home, and it would calm down. And at first it was hard for my wife, because your family never discusses things. You never get things out. But it's funny, because I've seen the same with my kids. My kids will get into stuff with each other, and they'll do, but they're the same. They just let it blow, and it's as though, like I said, seriously, my wife may get into something about something, and I literally cannot remember what it is that I was upset about, or she was. I literally cannot remember what it was, and then it tells me, well, good. Then you shouldn't have been arguing anyway. I mean, seriously. I mean, if you cannot remember what you're upset about, it obviously was not worth being upset about it, right? Right. And so it doesn't matter. And if we can remember those things, that's the best counseling. But like I said, getting to the original thought, my greatest examples, my greatest mentoring or counseling has been the lives of people that I respect, people that have been married years and years. And the older you get and you look back, you think, man, just the wasted time it would have been to have tossed this aside. Like my uncle in Philadelphia, this will be my last thing, but I talked to him one time, this is many years ago, and that's probably 20, 30 years ago, because he's already been passed away, so about 30 years ago, I was in Philadelphia meeting with him, and he was telling me about his wife, who, my aunt, she's still with us, she's in a home now, she's way up there in her age, but he was telling me about how difficult she could be and so forth, but he said, yeah, I could have left so many times, but he said, when I was young, she had so many opportunities and reason to leave me, but she stuck with me. So why would I leave her now? Yeah. I mean, wow. I mean, that's really touching that this woman forgave him and stuck with him and rode it out with him, that he felt that there's no way he could or should leave this woman who was so faithful to him, that he stuck with her, and he's passed away now. She's still alive, but anyway, and I think again that was one of these things that runs in the huff, because my dad, same thing. You know, it's that thing somehow that was instilled in that family gene. Yeah.
You know, last thing I want to say, there's another quote from...
And then I'll say a last thing.
From my mentor, Kenneth Hagin. And it goes to the point of people won't change unless they want to change. And one Sunday night he was preaching, he says, the problem with most women, they marry a man thinking, I'll change him. Yeah. He said, but the problem with most men is they marry a young woman thinking she'll never change. And he said, boy, when that middle-aged spread hit, she's going to spread. Is the way he said it.
They think she'll never change.
But ultimately, selfishness is what destroys relationships, any relationship. And I tell you, I had a situation where, Debbie and I were at odds on something, and there was something that just seemed senseless to me, but it meant a lot to her. And so I'd like, okay, fine. So I changed it, and then I reaped the results of that change. And I'm like, holy crap, all I had to do is change that. And all of this other great thing happened as a result. And you save yourself a lot of counseling if you just learn to communicate in a way where you both feel uplifted and respected.
Yeah, I think my wife and I have reached that golden age now where we can make each other very mad, and 20 minutes later, it's like nothing ever happened. Yeah, there you go. So it's because we realized that, it was a moment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a moment in time that, and again, it's like, who cares? Yeah. I don't even remember. It wasn't a big deal, Yeah. Okay, so you left the milk sitting on the counter for an extra 15 minutes. Why didn't you put it away? I don't know. Who cares? Why? Just put it away. I mean, if it's a big deal, just put the milk back in the refrigerator rather than making a deal out of it. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Or you didn't park the car in the garage right. Yeah. You know what I mean? Oh, I know. You didn't do this right. You didn't, I mean, we both, she does things, I do things. Yeah. Why make an issue of it? Yeah. I did it. Okay. You forgot to do this again. Yeah, I did. You're right.
I do have one more thing. I have to say this, or I'm going to get a lot of flack by people who've been advocates for me dealing with serious, legitimate, major mental health issues. There are some where meds really make the difference. There are some mental health conditions, very serious ones. Meds really don't fix anything. They might, but they come with side effects. Whereas therapy and counseling for those specific major psychiatric conditions is really your only hope. And it takes patience. And that's not about relationship issues. Because, Eddie, I think what you and I are talking about, we're talking in the context of relationship counseling. You know?
Right. Yeah. But see, when you get to that point, and then, see, there's still a danger. It's still fraught with danger because you never know what kind of counseling you're going to get. You're never, it's like a doctor. You can go to one doctor and then, you can get a second opinion, and you never know if you're going to get a good psychologist or even a pastor. You get pastors that'll preach one thing, you get another one, preach another one, another. And so that's my whole deal. It always ends up being a relationship thing that you have to find the right counselor.
See, now, Eddie, this transition is something that I know you're big on as a health insurance underwriter or agent. We've gotten into an age where people are seeing specialists all the time, more so than their primary care physician. And folks, for your good overall health, your primary care, your family doctor, that's your quarterback. And that's a person who should be calling in specialists, but also keeping informed, because otherwise you could have this specialist treating for something that's going to throw that condition over there out of whack.
Yeah, the problem with your family practitioner or your internist, they have a new name.
Oh,
internist.
Yeah.
I know. Most of them nowadays, they just want to collect that copay or their little fee for looking at you doing the basic things, and then I'm going to send you over here to the orthopedic, to the this, to the that, to the that. So they don't really take the time to be your general practitioner, which is what it used to be called, a general practitioner, because they pretty much could diagnose almost anything wrong with you and then send you to a specialist, to a surgeon. This sounds like you have a need for an orthopedic surgeon because I can't do surgery on your back. But I know you have a herniated disc. I know you have a compound this or that. You have this, or a neurologist. You need a neurosurgeon, a neurologist, et cetera, et cetera. But so many of your GPs these days, general practitioners or whatever, nowadays you go in because they've got so many clients, so many patients that they want 15 minutes with you. Oh, how are you doing, Mr. Van Risingham? Anything new? Anything I need to know about? Okay, let me look at your chart. I don't see. Okay, do we need to do anything new with your prescriptions? Do you need any new refills, et cetera, et cetera? Okay, well, I'll see you in 6 months. Boom, he gets his whatever, 120 bucks, and then boom, he's over to the next room. Yeah. Rather than sitting there. Now, I had one, for example, the one I had, unfortunately, he I guess he realized what the game was going on, and so he went to a senior living center where he could just deal with the elderly, which I think was very noble of him to really deal with people who really need it. But he would do a rectal exam, the old-fashioned.
The latex glove.
The latex glove.
Yeah. No scope here.
No, the new one that I have, no, he won't even do one.
Yeah.
He gives you a little kit, go home and do this yourself. Yeah. You know, you put the thing in a bag.
Poop on the stick, yeah.
Yeah, and you mail it in. Something, he wouldn't be caught dead. So this was the old guy, he would, I had, in fact, he saved my life. My old one saved my life because I could call him at any time. And when I had my first bout with pulmonary embolisms, the blood, he figured out what it was. Well, I went to urgent care, and you probably have bronchitis, coughing blood, and he said, and I woke up and I had pain in my side. He said, have you had a CT scan? No. He sent me to get a CT scan. Yeah. By the time I came out of there, they said, don't go home. Your doctor's already called your wife. She's meeting you at the emergency room. You go straight in. They rushed me right in, gave me a Lovenox shot in my stomach. And I asked him, I said, this sounds pretty serious. He said, yeah, instant death. You could have died. And you remember DeGarmo and Key, the Christian band DeGarmo and Key? Yeah. Well, Dana Key died 3 weeks later from the same exact thing. Yeah. And God spared me because I happened to call him, and he knew exactly what was wrong with me. He didn't even look at me. And the guy at urgent care, I told him I'm coughing blood, and he said, "Oh yeah, it's probably this or this." You know, see, that's a general practitioner. That's an internist. So many of the others today, you know, they're collecting a check, and so it's sad. Hey, we better move on. We've covered quite a bit here. This is some fresh black coffee this morning, people. Hey, listen, I want to switch gears and clear our palate totally a little bit. Did you watch the USC Utah game last night?
No.
Okay, it was the Pac-12 championship game. Oh. Utah beat USC for the second time. So now there's a dilemma. USC was number 4 in the nation with 1 loss. Now they have 2 losses. 2 losses to the same Utah team who has 3 losses. Well, but here's the dilemma. Right behind them is Ohio State. Who lost to Michigan.
They dropped big a week ago,
didn't
they?
Right. But they lost to Michigan. They're number 5. So now the dilemma is going to be, does Ohio State get to jump up into number 4? I know TCU has to win tonight. If they beat Kansas State, they're in. If they lose, then does Ohio State and Alabama move up? Which
Alabama might make it back in.
Which is good. We'll deal with that in a second. But anyway, they were interviewing the Ohio State coach. They've already been practicing last week because he's thinking he's going to get back in it.
Sure.
I am not so sure. I don't think that. In fact, I already saw some articles saying why USC should still go in. I do not personally want to see Utah. Not Utah. What am I talking? Ohio State back in it. Here's my reasoning. I do not want 2 Big Ten teams. I do not want 2 SEC teams in the playoffs. Well, I want a Pac-12, a Big Ten, a SEC, and a did I mention Big 12 already?
TCU.
I want to see Michigan, TCU, SC, Southern Cal, and then Georgia. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah, so USC lost. Here's what you got. You had 3 unbeaten teams here. Number 1, 2, and 3. Georgia, Michigan, TCU.
Right.
Then you got 2 teams with
2 losses.
Well, Ohio State has 1 loss.
Well,
actually, there's only 1 team with 1 loss. It's Ohio State.
Right.
So a lot of people would say, well, they should be 4th. USC's got 2 losses, as does Alabama. Tennessee.
Right.
Okay. And Penn State and Clemson.
Right. Here's the problem you face with Ohio State. And this is what I don't like. The way the Big Ten has, I don't want to say rigged, but the way they're set up. They have so many teams that Ohio and Michigan don't play each other in the regular season. They have the East and the West.
Is that what that was?
Yes.
Last week? That was
the championship.
Oh, okay.
Oh no. Yeah. See, so what happens, they don't play each other.
I was not aware of that.
Hey, well, let's put it this way. They don't play each other twice.
Well, I know Alabama, SEC is that way, right? Because you'd see LSU and might be on the West, but then you got Alabama and Georgia on the East.
Right. So, yeah, see, Michigan and Ohio State are on the same side.
Yeah.
So now Michigan has beaten Ohio State, so they can't play them again. They play the winner of the other division.
Yeah, which might be Minnesota.
Right, and the other division is very weak.
Yep.
And whereas in the SEC, you've got a situation where Georgia and Alabama, it's a similar situation.
Yeah, Michigan's playing Purdue for the championship.
Right,
yep,
exactly. So to me, it's a little bit different deal. What I would prefer to see if Michigan and Ohio State played each other twice, then they could be in the same situation. So to me, it's not really fair to say you only played this team and they had to play these guys twice.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's not apples to apples.
Yeah, and that's what I want to say, Eddie, because we're watching these big super conferences,
Right.
SEC, Big Ten, that go to above 10 teams. Now, Big 12 stopped at 10 teams for a long time. Next year, they'll be at 12. Here's the thing. Once you're more than 10 teams, you can't play everybody.
Right.
And so that's what gives you this situation where you could have a strong division and a weak division of the same conference.
Exactly right.
And so this is probably one of the best natural arguments against the super conferences.
Yeah. And so, for example, TCU now has to play Kansas State a second time.
Yeah.
They've beaten them once, but they've got to do it again. OU, it's the same thing. I hate that for OU. That OU, if they win, they would have to play Kansas State or TCU twice or Texas twice and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it puts you at a real disadvantage to have to get up and beat one team twice. And so I think it's the same in the Pac-12 that they have to, if you're going to do it, you need to have enough teams to where everything needs to be a level playing field. You need to have. They need to have a Pac-16 is what they need to have. They need to have a Big 16 for the Big 12, and for the Big 10 needs to have 16 teams, as do the SEC. Now the SEC, once OU and Texas join them, will be 16 teams.
Yeah,
and then they will. Yeah, you will have an East and West, and a winner of each plays the other one. But anyway, it's just not a fair deal, and I really do not want. Because what you're going to end up with, if let's say TCU and SC lost last night, and TCU were to lose today, you literally could have a situation where you have two Big Ten and two SEC teams playing each other.
That's a problem.
Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and Michigan.
Yeah, personally, I'd like to see Utah get that fourth spot.
Well, they can't. They have 3 losses.
I know they have 3 losses. But
well, you can't get it.
I understand.
Okay.
Personally, I'd like to see them get it. I just looked at their win-loss. 2 of them were losses by 3 points. To Florida and, let's see, what was that other one? To Oregon.
Oregon, right.
Right? And now they did lose by 10 points to UCLA at UCLA, but UCLA is a top 20 team.
Right. But USC beat both of those teams.
Yeah. Eddie, I remember talking to Todd Graham one time about that. He says, it really comes down to matchups. There could be that one team that matches up so well against you, they'd lose half their games in the season, but they match up well against your team, and they can be a spoiler.
Well, that's what happened with Utah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying. To me, USC deserves to be there. Now,
really?
But not, well, you just said it. The one team is a spoiler. I mean, I'm just singing your tune. Now,
I'm just saying, emotion. I just kind of,
right. Now,
I'd like to see Utah.
You would like to see Utah. Yeah. I'm sure I'd like to see Texas Tech.
I'd like to see Oklahoma State.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'd love to see. I wish OSU hadn't lost these last 3 or 4 games in a row.
God,
I don't know what in the heck happened there. I mean, to be honest with you, that really hurts. I mean, I would love nothing more than to have seen OSU be the ones going, but hey, it didn't happen. So, but here's another thing that I want to say now, and I want to say this to all of my OU fans here. I got someone sent me a message this morning talking about their neighbor. It was something their neighbor posted or something, an OU fan. And it's probably the sentiment of most OU fans, that they were gleeful that Lincoln Riley and USC lost last night, and Caleb Williams. But it was the way they expressed their loss. And here's what's interesting about it, though. Yes, they deserve to lose, and it was kind of putting USC down. And I had to remind them that even though they lost, they still have the best record in the Pac-12. Mm-hmm. They're still fourth in the nation.
Yep.
OU is number 7 in the Big 12.
Yeah, exactly.
OU lost, I believe, 4 games this year? I think it was no, they had to be more because they're 6. Must be 6 and 5 is what. No, 5. No, I'm sorry.
Weren't they
they're 5 and 6.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're not even bowl eligible. Let's put it this way: OU did not make it to bowl eligibility this year, which is the first time since the 90s that OSU has not been bowl eligible. I'm not saying this with glee, okay? I'm honestly not saying. I'm just saying do not be talking bad about Lincoln Riley because Lincoln Riley decided to do what's best for Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. And here's why it really irks me. OU fans would say nothing. I promise you would say nothing if OU took a coach from another school and that coach ended up taking them to a national championship. They would just be joyful about it that we are headed for a national championship.
OU is 6-6, by the way. OU did have 6 wins.
I thought last week was going to make it 6-6. That they're actually 5-6.
They won Utah, Kent State, Nebraska first 3 games. Then they had a 3-game slide. Then they beat Kansas and Iowa State. Those 5 wins, and then Oklahoma State was their 6th win.
Oh, okay. Oh, excuse me then.
Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I thought they were okay. Yeah. All right. So 6-6. Mm-hmm. So, but. Back to the original thought.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You can't be upset because Lincoln Riley decides he wants to make $9 million a year, have a private jet, live in Southern California, and raise his kids the best way he can. And you're a hypocrite if you think you wouldn't enjoy the same spoils that he is now enjoying. The reason he was presented with that opportunity is because he's good at what he does. And you've seen, everybody in the nation has seen what he did with that program. They were a 5-win team last year. He's taken them to the top of the game in the Pac-12, okay? So that's what bothers me. That's one. Number 2, if you really want to point blame, we talked assess blame. It goes back to something we discussed way back, and that's when Cale Gundy was fired at OU over some stupid thing because a black kid is reading something he shouldn't be in a meeting, and it has the word nigger in it. And Cale Gundy happens to read what the kid has on his tablet, and they fire or make him resign over reading what the kid has on his tablet, yet the kid is still on the football team, but Cale Gundy is out of a job.
That's asinine.
It is totally ridiculous. And you had a great offensive coordinator, and you got rid of him over some stupid thing like that.
Yeah.
So if you want to get upset, don't get mad at Lincoln Riley. Don't be gleeful that Lincoln Riley won in a conference championship game.
Yeah. Okay. I've got an analogy. It's going to make your point.
I'm just saying, it really irks me that you have these OU fans that would be so upset. And here's one reason it really irks me, because OU didn't have any problem with Baker Mayfield leaving Texas Tech and staying in conference and coming to OU and becoming the OU quarterback, and Baker Mayfield talking trash about Texas Tech when Texas Tech did nothing but make him who he was. He was freshman of the year in the Big 12 at Texas Tech, and Kingsbury gave him that opportunity. He was going to be at Oregon State. Oregon State is where he would have been, but he ended up leaving there to go to Texas Tech. Oh, he never went, actually. He was first recruited. And so he goes to Texas Tech as a walk-on and ends up becoming who he is now in the NFL. But anyway, I just want to remind people of that. Don't throw stones when the stones may ricochet and hit you in your own head.
Yeah, I've got a great analogy that just drives your point home. When my boys were teenagers, I saw this, rules for dating my daughter. And it was pretty sick. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to write rules for being seen with my son. Where I'm going to just show how masochist that other thing, by a pastor wrote it, treating all men all young guys like there's not a virtuous one among them.
Right.
And one of the rules was a date is just a date. Because, see, I encourage my kids, don't jump into a going steady, as we used to call it in the 60s.
Right.
Go on a date, and then you can go on a date with somebody else.
Right.
I said, a date is just a date. You might go on another date again, but until there's a ring on your finger, you're free to date whoever, and so is my son. And if my son later dates another girl, and you decide to take out your wrath on that girl, you just confirmed to my son why he's no longer dating you. Right? Lincoln Riley coached OU. And you know what? He decided to switch and go with another team. And taking out your wrath on that other team just reinforces Lincoln Riley. Well, he didn't want to be around you as a fan. Because I remember, was it Pogue? I forget the guy's name. Was the quarterback for Oklahoma State back in, I think it was like 02 or 03. And somebody who's an OU fan, this was at a church banquet thing we were doing. It was a Fellowship of Christian Athletes thing, and he was a speaker. And this guy says, well, what do you think about OU, and that is like, wanted to hear this nasty rivalry. And the quarterback says, I hope OU has a fantastic season and wins every game except the one when they play us. And I thought, thank you, because I know people that they hope that the rival loses every game. No, you actually, for your rankings, it's better that they only lose to you and win everybody else, because you get ranked higher when you beat winners more than beat losers.
Right. That is exactly how I feel. Like, for example, everybody should know by now that I went to Texas Tech. I played for Texas Tech. I'm a loyal Texas Tech fan. But when Texas Tech has a 3-8 record, or a 3-7 record, let's say, and they're playing their final game against OU, who has a 10-0 record, I do not want Texas Tech to beat OU or OSU, whoever it might be that is vying to get into the national championship.
Yeah.
Because it brings our conference down.
Yeah.
And when my conference goes up, it brings all ships rise to the top.
It's called spoiling for a reason. You don't want to,
Exactly. And so for example, Utah may feel very good about the outcome last night, but as far as the Pac-12, it hurts the Pac-12. So basically, unless the committee decides to put USC into the top 4, which it's probably not looking very good, unless they do that. If they don't put them in, this will be probably the, I think, 6th or 7th year in a row that the Pac-12 does not have somebody in the Final Four of the championship. So basically, you get to stay home. USC still has a better record than Utah, and will probably still end up with a better bowl game than Utah because their record is better. So what did Utah really achieve in the victory other than they beat USC? They can brag that they beat USC twice. So you see what I'm saying? I hope you understand.
Yeah.
to me, there's a reason to my madness, or that it's not just sometimes about winning games. It's about a strategy of winning the war, winning the season. It was the same, if Texas, I literally do not like Texas.
Yeah.
I do not like Texas. But if Texas had a 10-0 season and they were playing OU, OSU, Texas Tech, I would want Texas to win because I would want Texas to go to the finals.
You got to get a team in that tournament.
Exactly. And but to that fan who apparently is happy that Lincoln lost and happy with all of that, and apparently also doesn't like what's going on in the Big 12 or whatever.
Yeah.
We'll see you in the SEC. Good luck, goodbye, au revoir. And we will now have a team of people who will apparently be better suited on a more level plane.
Yeah.
And the Big 12 will continue with our new additions. Now next year should be fun because we're going to have the new teams in. And
we're hanging on to the 2 old teams.
Right, exactly.
That'll be 14 teams.
Yeah, so it'll be fun. It'll be a fun season. Next year may be the best Big 12 season we've had since the initial.
It's going to be a shootout.
Yeah,
I mean, it's good. Oh, by the way, the game's on right now. Kansas State's up by a touchdown over TCU.
See, there you go. See, that's what happens. I mean, that's what happens. That's what it's about. And I would not be surprised if Kansas State ends up winning. Kansas State will be very happy.
Okay.
Kansas State won't go anywhere.
Right.
But it'll keep the Big 12 out of the championship, and I'm sure there'll be OU fans happy with that too. That TCU lost.
Yeah,
I mean, and
Kansas
OSU
State will still have 3 losses, just like Utah has 3 losses. But what do you do with TCU, who only has 1 loss? But it was that last
they will bump them. Well, this morning they said TCU will probably still make it because they just have 1 loss.
Exactly.
But you could say, and this is what the pundits like to say, especially Feinbaum, who hates the Big 12 for some reason. Feinbaum and people like that might say, well, the Big 12 is a weaker conference, so you got to weigh that. So
it's not a weaker conference.
I know that.
Yeah.
You know that. Our audience probably knows that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's an argument to be made that, ultimately what they would love to, they would really love to, I guarantee you, they would love nothing more than to have 2 Big 10 and 2 SEC teams because, for one reason, ESPN owns the SEC.
It's money. It's corrupted by money.
Money, and then the Big 10, of course, is their deal. So, so that's where we're at. But hey, Dave, listen.
Yeah, we got to get on.
We got to move into something.
Should we talk politics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
And culture.
Yes. Let's do this in reverse order. Herschel Walker.
Yeah.
The Georgia runoff. Herschel is running against the Warlock. Anthony Warnock. I know what it is. Warnock the Warlock.
I thought he was a minister.
He is. Well, yes, he's I don't know what he's a minister of, but yeah.
Tolerance.
Yeah, that's coming up this Tuesday, the runoff, and
it ends Tuesday. Then the counting begins. Yeah.
But
they've been voting since Thanksgiving weekend.
Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. That's another thing. This whole early voting thing. Somebody's got to get a hold of that. But the runoff election hopefully ends or the middle of the end or whatever. I don't know how long they're going to take with that whole thing. But it Tuesday is election day. Let's put it this way, runoff day. And we'll see. All we can ask you to do is pray and see. Hopefully Herschel can win, pull it out, and we would then have a 50-50 Senate. We would have the majority in the House, and we would be able to win some battles if we can get some senators to join us in some of these.
Yeah, we will have 50 and a half, right? Because I consider Joe Manchin kind of half conservative.
Yeah, and Kristen Sinema in Arizona, sometimes she's more.
Yeah, and you know what's the other nice thing? It's kind of limited Kamala Harris. She's got to stay tight at home because at any moment she can be called in to cast a tie-breaking vote.
Right, exactly. So that's happening. So if you're out there, please pray for the runoff in Georgia on Tuesday. The other big news, and this is something we really can get into, this is really juicy, is the Kanye story. It keeps going.
I've got about 3 related stories that all kind of come together with Kanye.
Okay, well, let's tell the people what's going on. Kanye, who is known now as Ye.
Yay, Kanye.
Yay, more like Yehu.
Yeah.
But anyway, he, honestly, I feel sorry for the guy. He is one of these brilliant, genius nuts.
A savant, as Alex Jones calls him.
Yeah,
a savant.
I would go with that.
Yeah.
He is the guy who is a brilliant mind trapped in a limited mind, and he's trying to get out, and therefore he is so. And I think here's the other aspect to it. He's got so many things pulling on him that I don't think people understand, okay? I think Kim Kardashian, that whole thing, I think he's a troubled, and he's in pain. That's a part of his thing.
He's crushed.
His
family, I mean, as a caring father, to lose control of your children's direction, training, upbringing, that's devastating.
Well, and just the fact that I think he really loves this girl. He loves Kim Kardashian, and she is decided to move on, and so he's wrestling with that.
This is like marriage number what for her? She's been married so many times.
A few times, right?
Yeah,
and so he has got to deal with that, and that's tearing at him. At the same time, his creative side wants to continue on. And he's got all of these other things going on that he wants to do. And so there's just too much going on in the limited mind. It reminds me of, I think, remember a few months ago I talked about George Washington Carver when he asked God to give him the secret of the universe. And he said, George, you can't handle that, but I'll give you the secret of the peanut. You know, and that's what I think is going on here, that Kanye, he's got too much going on in that mind. And the human mind is, and I'll tell you someone who may be in danger or bordering that, which is the next story I want to get into, but I won't do it right now. But so here's what's happening now. Here's the big picture, okay? Kanye, the beginning of the end of Kanye was when he went to visit Donald Trump in Trump Tower. That's when this started. Kanye was good. He was cool. He was the man. The moment that Kanye decided, and Jim Brown, you name the person, if they became friends with, said anything nice about, in any way gave a positive push to Donald Trump, they became public enemy, you name them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Kanye now is, at the moment, public enemy. I don't know if he's number one. I'll get to number one here in a second. But this is why they're after Kanye.
Yeah.
So, and Kanye's giving them ammunition, okay? Now, here's the deal. I want to go back to the Jewish deal. He is now being seen as an anti-Semite. When this began, this was not truly about Jews, okay? It was about specific group of people that happened to be Jewish. It was about agents, management, business, music industry, entertainment moguls and industry people in Hollywood and in New York. Okay, that's what this was about. These were the Jews that he spoke of.
Yeah, Charles Lindbergh spoke about the same, Jews that control the media.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is what he was not speaking about, the Jews in Israel. Now, of course, then he goes on, what's his name? Alex Jones's show, and he comes on with this hood. I don't know what that was.
A ski mask.
A ski mask.
Yeah.
And then he brings this Netanyahu on. Did you see that?
Yeah, it was a little butterfly net and a bottle of Yahoo drink. Net and Yahoo.
Net and Yahoo, which in a way...
I got it the next day.
Well, the next day, I knew right away what it was.
See,
because
you're firing on all cylinders.
No, I grew up drinking Yahoo.
Okay.
In Philadelphia,
yeah,
New
we
York.
never had it where I grew up.
Yeah, see, Yogi Berra used to advertise Yahoo.
Okay.
It was a chocolate drink that you get up in the Northeast. I guess you can get it everywhere now. But
I think so, yeah.
So I grew up with Yahoo. But anyway, and so Kanye thought he was being funny, but there's certain things you're not allowed to make fun of anymore or be funny with. I would bet you, now I promise you, I guarantee you that Benjamin Netanyahu thought it was funny. Knowing Benjamin Netanyahu probably thought it was funny. Really, he's that type. I think he's that type
had
of.
This joke said thousands of times.
Yeah, I would guarantee.
You know, you're born with that family name. What can you do?
Yeah, Netanyahu in New York, especially with New York Jews,
and
right?
he's been in a huff since he was born.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when I was a kid, with me it was Huff Puff Cocoa Puff, chocolate flavored Cocoa Puff. Yeah. So you just deal with it. That's something that goes with your name, okay? So, but now, oh my God, he did it. Now, so, and then he was making the point about Hitler. Now, this is where you really cannot touch the H. Do not talk about the H, Hitler. And he was trying to make the point that not everything Hitler did was necessarily negative. Well, why did he want to say that? That Hitler basically introduced the Volkswagen, okay? The first people's car. Volkswagen basically means the people's...
Volkswagen.
Exactly, the people's car, okay, the people's vehicle. And he invented the turnpikes.
The Autobahn.
Yeah. Okay.
In fact, Eisenhower was so impressed with it, he brought it back here when he became president.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so because up until the Germans came out with the Volkswagen, the people's vehicle, only the rich could afford
a Dusseldorf.
Duesenberg.
Sorry.
Only the wealthy could afford a car.
Yeah.
The common man didn't have it. That's why you used to have public transportation. You remember the streetcars? The reason streetcars went away is not because we didn't know how to build streetcars anymore or public transportation. The reason we got rid of them is because not enough people were using. Everybody wanted a car.
Independence, baby.
Exactly. So Kanye messes around and talks about Hitler. But he's like the kid in the 5th, 6th grade craving attention. He wants attention, and he's being attacked, and now he's leashing out.
He is.
He's
There's a lot of frustration, I think.
A lot of frustration, and he doesn't know when to quit.
Yeah.
Now, here's the other side of this coin. Donald Trump invites him to come to Mar-a-Lago to visit him, to meet with him, to try to help the guy, to talk it out, to say, look, maybe you should.
By the way, that meeting was set up months ago, according to Kanye.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, but what do? Kanye meets with anti-Jewish anti-Semite Kanye West. So now it's Trump's fault. Trump is an anti-Semite, even though his son-in-law is Jewish. His daughter has converted to Judaism. His grandkids are Jewish, but he's an anti-Semite. Right. I mean, this is how sleazy and how messed up the left is, okay? This is the other side. They will do anything. They will stoop to anything to try to tarnish Donald Trump.
Yeah.
They won't quit. They won't quit. And here's the saddest part of it. The traitorous politicians in the Republican Party who should know better are giving in. Mm-hmm. One at a time.
They're throwing them under the bus.
Slowly they're capitulating.
Yep.
People are capitulating. And I'm going to say here right now, I am not one of them. I will not give up. I will not join that side. I don't care. Mike Pence, you're scum, buddy. You're just a rat. You're a rat. And anybody that now decides they're going to turn on Donald Trump, you are nothing more than a disgusting rat. Mm-hmm. Because this is a guy who did more for this country than any president has done, to me, since Dwight David Eisenhower, and now you're going to turn on him like this over a filthy, stinking media that we know is corrupt, that has used everything, every dirty trick in the world against this man, and are still doing it. And if you look at everything that's going on, you know the truth. You know it better than the common man. You know it better than we do. You know what's been going on. You know what's happened, and you're still capitulating to this. Mm-hmm. It's got to stop. And anyone who is turned on Donald Trump, you are no friend of mine. Mm-hmm. You're no one that is worthy of my support. I don't care if you want it or not. It doesn't matter. But I'm here to say today that I am with Donald Trump till the end. And I pray for the man, and I pray against anybody that raises a hand against him, or a mouth, or a word.
Yeah. What I want to say, because I watched all 3 hours of Kanye with Alex Jones, and Alex basically gave over the show. It says Kanye's the host today, and Nick Fuentes is here with him. And the big message through the whole 3 hours is we got to stop hating. It's time for love.
That never came out. That never came through.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I'm saying I believe you. I agree. But what I'm saying is, nary was there a word in any press, any media about that message right there.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said specifically before he said, I love Netanyahu. I love the Jews. I love the Nazis. Now, what did Jesus call us to do?
Love one another.
Okay, what's the greatest commandment?
Love your
what's
enemy.
The second greatest?
Or to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and your neighbor as yourself.
Jesus didn't say, except for the Nazis, or except for the Democrats. Yeah.
Well, what did he say also? Love your neighbor.
Right.
And those who despitefully use you, therefore heaping.
Yeah, and he goes on to elaborate. I mean, you read all the Gospels and then all the epistles, and they just elaborate more and more on that basic tenet. Yeah. So I was really impressed with what I heard.
Go, if you can find the Alex Jones interview, watch the whole thing.
Band.video. Now, here's the other thing.
Wait. Say that more slowly.
Banned, BANNED .video. Okay? That's when Alex Jones got canceled. He had to form his own YouTube, his own, and so now he's got, Alex Jones is far more untouchable now. You know, but here's the other thing he said, because he was monitoring the bandwidth, and in the third hour, he said, actually going into the fourth hour, he said, I've got 35 million viewers right now. He said, this is costing me, this broadcast, over $100,000 just in bandwidth cost. Because he says he's built the bandwidth so he never gets a crashed website.
Right.
And he said, but they said, it's going to cost you. And he says, no, I'm getting a good deal. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, when you consider Tucker Carlson doesn't even have 1/5 that on the normal night. Right. Okay. That's how big that was. Everybody was watching it. But I agree with you. You got to go watch it for yourself because you can't trust any media, and I'm including Newsmax in that.
Right. Oh, no. I agree. Newsmax has really disappointed me on Kanye West.
Yes.
They, for some reason, have, well, I'll tell you what it is. It's the Jewish media.
The New York media.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Even Christopher Ruddy is afraid of that Jewish media.
Well, his whole setup, he's got millions of dollars invested in New York City in the studios. I've been there. You know, it's just and it just permeates from the culture.
It's not the Jews. I have nothing against the Jews. I love the Jews. I love the Jewish people. I love the history of the Jews. Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, was a Jew, right? Mm-hmm. So I have nothing against the Jews or the Jewish people, particularly the true Jews, the Israelites, okay? But that doesn't mean I have to accept everything Jewish people do, right? Mm-hmm. No. Do I? How do you feel about Iranians? Mm-hmm. Are you an Iranian bigot? Because if you don't like Iranians, I could accuse you of being an anti-Russite because of the way everything is going against, or an anti-Muscovite because of the way you hate Russians today, right? I mean, pick a person. The way black people are trained now to hate all whites.
Yeah,
it's wrong. Okay, you cannot hate everybody and you do not hate everybody because you hate a specific group. Okay, I do not like the Ku Klux Klan, the Aryan Nation, but it doesn't mean I'm anti-white person, right. Anti-Caucasian, right? I don't like La Raza, which is a group within the Mexican people, but I love Mexicans. My wife's from El Paso. I grew up and lived in El Paso. I go there all the time. I hang out. Some of my closest friends down are from El Paso or in El Paso. I go down there all the time, stay with them.
Yep.
They come and see me.
Yep.
I mean, come on. I don't hate Germans.
Yeah.
Okay. I've run into neo-Nazis.
Yep.
I've talked to neo-Nazis. They'll talk to me. And I know the other side of the story with the true neo-Nazis in Europe. They're not, this is something that's hard for people to understand, okay? Mm-hmm. What the real core values of neo-Nazis and that's why they call them neo-Nazis. They're not the old Nazis.
Right.
They're the neo-Nazis. And what it is with them is they're trying to save their race. They're trying to have their race not be erased. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, and it's their culture. So a black person, you have a lot of immigrants coming into Germany. Let's use the Germans. Let's forget the Eastern Europeans for a minute, okay? So in Germany, the third largest Turkish city in the world. Third largest Turkish city in the world is Hamburg, Germany.
Wow.
Yeah. You got Istanbul,
yeah,
Ankara, and then you have Hamburg, Germany.
Wow.
So and what's happening, you have all the Turks come in because the Germans foolishly, like we're doing here in America, they brought all these Turks in mm-hmm. to do the jobs that the Germans won't do. Yeah. Yeah. We bring in the Latinos from South America and Central mm-hmm. America to do the jobs that Americans don't want to do, pick our vegetables, work. Mm-hmm. Over there it was wait in restaurants.
Clean the toilet,
do all of that stuff. And they've grown, but they take their money and then they send it home back to Turkey and they buy these land and build, because they can live very well mm-hmm. on the German money mm-hmm. in Turkey. Mm-hmm. because it's cheaper to live. So what's happened, the Germans have gotten to the point where they resent that they're making their money in Germany, but sending it back to Turkey.
Yep.
And instead of thinking, wait a minute, maybe it's your fault. Maybe if you started cleaning the toilets, waiting tables again. Switzerland's the worst. They refuse to do these jobs. It's beneath them. So they've got Africans and North Africans doing all of those menial tasks. So eventually that's what happens. That's what's going to happen here. Okay? It's going to happen. They're going to, and the problem is you think those people are, you're just saying, oh yeah, we've got this class of people that are going to, no, their kids are smarter than that. They're going to your schools. They're figuring out that, oh, if I just learn this, that this person's too lazy to learn or do, I move up the ladder, up the ladder, up the ladder, boom. I'll push these people out. Eventually, they're not going to stay down here. They're going to have these middle management jobs. They're going to own the businesses. And there you are. So the Germans, though, these so-called neo-Nazis, particularly it started in Eastern Europe because they saw what was happening there. They want to keep it pure. They want to keep their German, they're real proud. They don't even like what's happening in Western Europe. It's all American music, okay, or in English music. England, America, all the
Western
pop music.
culture.
Western culture's coming in. So they have this whole thing of where they want their German. Here, the funniest thing, you'll appreciate this. Rap music. So they like rap, but they get upset when it's English rap, rap in English. So they want their rap to be in German. I mean, it's kind of stupid to me because if you're going to fight against rap, just go against the whole genre of music. You know what I mean? Don't just get upset because it's not in your language. You know, it's kind of a silly thing. So, but that's what the whole neo-Nazi thing is. So you have black Germans that the neo-Nazis don't have a problem with. So, for example, if I go over there and I go into an area, I remember one night I was way out in the boondocks and I walk into they call them guest houses. It's a pub, I guess, a restaurant, bar type. You know, that's why the Germans are.
The inns,
in England, it'd be a pub. They call them a Gaststätte or a guest house. But so I walk in, and it was like, you know, the wind blowing in, and here comes this guy, and music's going in. All of a sudden, it goes
High
quiet.
Plains Drifter. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And it just gets quiet, and everybody's looking at me. He says, "What's this N-word doing in here?" You know, and everybody's looking at me. It gets totally quiet. And I start speaking in German. Good evening. Listen, I'm lost. I'm trying to find this place. Can anybody tell me? All of a sudden, the music starts. I'm not kidding. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And there's and it's right down there. So if you want, why don't you follow me? Some guy gets off the bar, comes to follow me, jumps in, and he leads me down.
He's one of the good ones.
Yeah. He's one of the good ones because I speak the language. But see, they were the American GIs that don't want to speak English, beat them up, steal their women, that kind of thing. They're so, upset with that's what they're reacting against. That's what the neo-Nazis are more against the immigrant, the Asylanten. They're against that immigrant thing coming and taking over their culture. It's not that they hate the immigrant. They hate that they're losing their culture.
Their culture.
They're losing their culture.
But isn't that, in a way, like the tribalism that we've decried in past episodes?
Which tribalism?
Well, you're talking about it's the kind of tribalism that, sectarian separates us, where we're not treating, like here in America, you've got, instead of, as Martin Luther King said, we judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. Mm-hmm. Well, you could say, or by the accent of their language, or how they dress, or, all kinds of things like that.
No, it's different. See, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, if you're a black kid, and you're in German, and you speak German, and you act German, and Germany is your home, and you love Germany, you don't have a problem.
Yeah.
It's when you live in Germany, but you want to speak Arabic.
Yeah.
And you want to send your money to Turkey.
Yeah.
Or to Morocco, or to Tunisia. So, in other words, you're living in it's like here in America. You seen these cash change places, that transfers where they take the money and they send it to Mexico.
Right.
It's the same as that. So these guys work here and they take all the money. Millions, if not billions of dollars a year are sent to Mexico.
Okay.
That the people make here and they send it to Mexico.
You know who voiced that probably as good as anybody, and it was 100 years ago, it's Theodore Roosevelt, when he said, everybody should be treated with the same honor and respect, but there will be one flag and one American. We're not going to have African American and Asian American. We're going to have American. That's it, American.
That's it.
You know, and he said that 100 years ago, and like, what happened? Nobody's listening.
No. You
know?
But see, what happened, one of the things, then you got, was it Grover Cleveland that came after Teddy? I can't remember. Taft. So, and then after that, Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah.
So Woodrow Wilson came in, and of course, a Democrat. Mm-hmm. And then Woodrow Wilson, by the way, he debuted the first movie ever, motion picture ever shown in the White House, was shown to Woodrow Wilson, and it was the what is it? It's the Ku Klux Klan movie.
Jazz singer?
No, that's not Ku Klux Klan. Oh, what is
Al
it?
Jolson?
No, it's a war movie. It's
wow.
I wish it was about World War One.
Okay.
Anyway, it was the first movie. It was a Ku Klux Klan. Anyway, Woodrow Wilson, Democrat, was a rank racist. Okay, and they don't want to. You know, you can bring all these up. They want to hide all that stuff. But anyway, what I'm getting at though. But see, that's when things. It started separating. Teddy Roosevelt. He, as you said, he wanted one flag, he wanted one United States, and he wanted to see things change racially. He's the one, he had, Booker T. Washington was invited to have dinner with Teddy in the White House. So Booker T. Washington became the first black person to ever be invited as a guest.
An honored guest, not an usher or a waiter.
Exactly, to eat there in the White House. And it created quite a stink. But that's the type of person Teddy Roosevelt was. Yeah. And so people don't want to honor that. But it's just what our nation has gone through. But anyway, this is what happened in Germany and Europe. Right now in Hungary, okay, Viktor Orban, the president of Hungary, he's singularly trying to plant that flag of Hungary for Hungarians. And he's being called a Nazi and a racist and all that because he is trying to keep his country pure as Hungarians and not multicultural. He's fighting the multicultural battle and they hate him for it. And his country loves it. But they're very, in fact, I am hoping I would like to, here in the next year or so, take a trip, and part of what I want to do is go to Hungary and hang out there.
And I want to say, this last week I was talking to a fellow from Latvia, born in Latvia, and we were talking about the Baltic states, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, and he even includes Finland and Denmark, or what we generally refer to as Scandinavian countries. But over in that part of Europe, they're not being bombarded by decadent Western culture the way Germany and France and England and Belgium and Netherlands are. But and that's a lot of what's going on. There are aspects of what Russia is doing to reject Western culture that I, as a Christian traditionalist, have a lot of respect for.
That's the weirdest thing, isn't it? It's almost like an upside down world.
Yeah.
That Russia is acting more Christian than the United States.
In some aspects. In some aspects, not.
No, I agree. But, and it's almost as though Putin, the older he gets, is trying to turn Russia more to the old ways than, and we're going the other way. And we're becoming more communist. They're going less communist.
Right. And my real concern, and this was a main point I wanted to talk about today, is I think what's going to be our undoing as a society is intolerance. And I'm going to say intolerance left and right. It's much like what divided Germany with the communists and the National Socialists or Nazis, because they were more in love with their ideology than love for their fellow man, even their fellow countrymen. And that's what I saw start to come out with Kanye West's message. And, Kanye's, I have some unique insights into people. I'm not bipolar, but I know several people who are. And I've tried to communicate with them. Their brain is firing overcharged, okay? It is overclocked as a computer. And it's going faster than they can process it in their consciousness. And that's why Kanye is just kind of scattered all over there. I
agree.
It's an overcharged, overfiring synapses. That's actually where when we talk about firing in all synapses, it refers to the bipolar condition, because it short circuits. But Kanye, he was almost too cute. He took a symbol that comes from Buddhism originally, that is a sign of good luck. And it looks rather similar to the Nazi swastika.
Right.
Now, the swastika is tilted on a 45, okay? Whereas the Buddhist symbol for good luck, that you go to any of the temples in Japan, you'll see it all over. But it's combined in a rather new age religion called Raelism, a Raelian belief, which is kind of a third definition of how creation came. It wasn't God created you. It wasn't the Big Bang. It was that aliens came to our planet. And that's what the Raelians believe. But they use a symbol that combines what we know of as the Star of David and what we know as the Buddhist symbol for good luck. Well, this is what shows how stupid Twitter is. They are absolutely that knee-jerk and unthinking that they now permanently banned Kanye West from Twitter again because they called that a symbol to incite violence. They accused him of inciting violence. Here's Kanye talking love. We got to quit hating and start loving.
Because he used the Raelian symbol and they thought it was a Nazi.
That's how stupid they are.
Right. And I wonder if he didn't do that on purpose.
I mean, we have 50 stars, pentagrams, on the American flag. But you tilt those half a notch, and it looks like a satanic inverted pentagram, right? So, is the U.S. flag full of satanic symbols?
50 of them.
That's how stupid this is.
Yeah.
And for any thinking person, ought to know better. So, Twitter has a long way to go. A long way to go.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. I think that Elon really, really did not want to ban Kanye. I really.
It doesn't seem his nature.
No. And I think he just, right now, the best thing to wait for this to blow over, get this thing settled down. He'll meet with him, they'll talk, and they'll work it out. Because I think he and Kanye are friends, actually. I think he knows that they know. Right. So,
they've been talking for years.
I'm sure he's probably already talked to him.
So, and here's the thing. Alex Jones said a couple months ago when the deal finally went through and Elon finally took over Twitter, Alex Jones said, you know what? Yeah, I'd like to be back on Twitter. But Elon, I'll be patient. You've got a lot to work on here. Yeah. And I'm not going to scream and cry that I have to be your top priority.
Right.
And so what Elon was getting ready to do, and this happened last night, so this hasn't even hit the news,
He just last night unloaded all the internal documents.
That's where I wanted to go
on
next.
The Hunter Biden thing.
Right. Yeah, I wanted to go to that next. That he finally went on and released.
Good segue.
Yes, perfect segue. That he released the Hunter Biden. I was watching. He had what's the guy's name? There's a guy from.
He's a reporter, right?
Yeah, a reporter,
an independent journalist.
That was tweeting.
Was it Matt something?
As he was tweeting what he was reading, was being released and going through this, and essentially what was going on. The White House was giving I don't know if you want to say orders necessarily, but basically strong suggestions on how to handle Matt Taibbi.
Yeah.
Matt Taibbi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Close enough for me.
Yeah. This guy Matt Taibbi was doing, but anyway, the White House at that time, not the White House because Trump was in the White House. I'm sorry, the DNC. It was the DNC. The DNC was in the Biden campaign were communicating with the Twitter execs on what to communicate and how to communicate and what to ban and everything on the Hunter Biden laptop story and everything.
Devin Nunes, who now runs Truth Social, a former congressman, was actually head of the House Intelligence Committee, said this may be de facto campaign contributions that violate federal law. All of these things that they're doing. And so
the only question now, though, is if it is, does that put Twitter in jeopardy of those federal contributions?
Right. And
in other words, is Elon then responsible for that, or does the DNC get hit with it?
You're right. Yeah, that's a good question because what's his name that did all those Obama movies? He went to jail for giving too much money in a campaign. You're talking about from India. Yeah. So anyway, here's my strategy thought, my theory, why Elon went ahead and gave the full price on it is I think he's planning on a countersuit now to show fraud. And this will be just one more thing that he would be able to use. Because remember, he was claiming that, hey, there aren't that many accounts.
Bots.
A lot of these are bots.
Bots,
right. And they were in discovery on this, and he wasn't getting. He said, "Okay, I'll just buy it. Then I own all the data."
Right.
And now we're seeing the beauty of all this. So, Elon's not a perfect guy, but right now we need to be encouraging Elon to stay the course on this, and I can be patient with them. I think what they did to Kanye over this Raelian symbol was asinine. Right. But you know what? I'm going to be patient. That doesn't mean that. We got to quit seeing people as all good guy or all bad guy.
Right. No, I totally agree. And I think, with Elon, there's an interesting thing going on here because I think what's going on, Elon is so smart that if the Democrat Party is smart, they better leave him alone because I guarantee you he has redundancies where he can really get them. You know what I'm saying? I think he has got backup security systems. He has got spyware. He's got things that you and I can't even imagine yet.
I would imagine
that he, because he has this, what's that thing? He had a satellite system he has above Russia, and Ukraine, where the people
something link,
something
or no
Skylink.
Yeah, I think it's
Starlink or Skylink. Yeah. Anyway, he's got all these things that he's able to put in, and there's stuff that we probably don't even know about. In fact, it's a great segue for us to go into this. Did you hear what he's doing where he wants to have this chip implanted into his brain?
Yeah, he talked about it's closer than what we think.
Yeah. And it, I mean, it's real scary. In fact, I just saw a thing in Sweden. Okay, Mark of the Beast. 30 years ago or 40 years ago when we were young and this stuff we're going, yeah, right. When, you know, it'll be some, maybe, you know, we're thinking just like a stamp or a tattoo, but it's more in Sweden already, and maybe in Denmark too. I don't know. I know in Sweden though, people are implanting this chip in their. I don't know if you heard it. They're implanting the chip in their hand, and when they go to the store, all they have to do is hold this chip under a scanner, and it automatically hits their bank account.
Yeah.
So if you go to Walmart, for example, or whatever, you just hold your hand
See,
under
I
there.
did that in New York City this summer. I went to an Amazon store.
And you have a chip in your hand?
Not in my hand. It's in my palm, right?
No, but this is actually in the hand.
Right. Here's the thing. Elon did say in it that I think is worth some pause. We're already so far along there. He said everybody's doing this or doing this, right?
Right.
I mean, look I couldn't get through the show. But Eddie, how many times did we say, what's the guy's name? And you and I forgot. And we're like,
Dinesh D'Souza.
yeah, good. And you didn't have to use this.
No, I didn't have to.
But if it's just nothing more than just assisting in searching databases, right? Who knows what it can be?
Yeah, I think. Oh, in fact, now that I think about it, I remember seeing this whole thing. This is crazy, people. This is seriously crazy. They've already put the chip in a monkey's brain.
Yeah.
Have you seen the video?
I didn't. I heard about it, yeah.
I mean, this is scary. They have a chimpanzee, and they implanted this chip in the chimpanzee, and they've got him playing monkey pong or something pong. Anyway, it's like tennis on this computer thing where you, and it's got this chimpanzees playing this pong game, you know, where the thing goes bouncing, and this chimpanzee is playing this game. Okay, so, but Elon is planning to have one of these chips planted in his own brain, and it's supposed to enhance your, you know, everything about your brain.
But look what Rush Limbaugh had done, 15
the cochlear
years
implant?
ago? Yeah. Again, that's using digital technology to replace something that decayed and quit working. He went deaf. Rush Limbaugh was deaf.
Right, yeah. I know.
Right? And so he had this done, and he said, you know, he says, I hear music, and if it was a song that I remember before I went deaf, I can enjoy it. He said, new songs, I'm not there yet where I can enjoy new, but it brings back that which was already in my brain.
Really? That's how it works?
That. Well, he said that's how it worked for him. And so it's interesting. Look, I mean, my grandpa in 1975, he's got this big old pacemaker, looks like a pack of cigarettes under his skin. And, you know, whenever his heart would stop, it would kickstart him. And we went deer hunting up in Wyoming with him at 72 years old with that. You know, hey, if it improves quality of life, but listen, that's the thing. Does it really improve quality of life?
Yeah.
You know, or does it turn us into something that's no longer real?
Well, and the other question, can it be hacked?
Yes.
I've seen too many shows where they hacked a guy's pacemaker and killed him through it,
Eddie?
you know, stuff like that, you know, or mess with your brain and cause you to become a killer or something.
Right.
Like
Because, Eddie, you remember back in the 70s and 80s, this great voting machines.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to make it far more accurate. No more human error.
Which brings me to our final discussion here. Again, we've already discussed it, but I want to close again. Please be in prayer about Tuesday's election.
Yeah.
This is very important. I think it's very important that the Herschel Walker and Anthony, I think it's Anthony and Warnock. It may not seem very important to you, but it really is. The way I believe the election in Arizona for governor was stolen. Arizona has to deal with that. Okay, that's an Arizona deal. And hopefully they as a state will get that together by 2024 for the next presidential election. Hopefully, Nevada will get their election together. But right now, for the Senate, I'm praying and hoping that Georgia will get this together. It's good to see that the governor and everyone there is finally come together to support Herschel Walker. All of the Republicans have finally decided to work together for this one seat. And I pray that you will pray and believe for this one, because there will be nothing greater, if nothing else, to see Barack Obama defeated. I saw a video this morning of him showing up, and the way he jumps on stage and he goes, you know, he does all of this little profiling and stuff. It's just kind of maddening to watch him with his little antics and everything. But he is an evil man. Let me just say, that is an evil man married to an evil woman, and it needs to stop. We have got to show them that they will not win, that America is stronger, America is smarter, and America is tired of the way they're doing things. We need to see Florida reflected in Georgia, and then start seeing it spread throughout the United States. Yep. Let a flame begin, let it burn throughout the United States and spread west and north, okay? So anyway, David.
I got just real quick ones.
Oh, real quick, okay.
All right. There's going to be a battle for Republican National Committee chairman, because Ronnie McDaniel is being challenged by Corey Lewandowski and Mike Lindell. So, yeah, so that's coming up. We'll
My Pillow, the My Pillow guy.
Right. And I got another one. Salute to my homeboys, Northeast Oklahoma Association of Homeschools, or NOAA, as we call it, the NOAA Jaguars, which I used to be on the coaching staff and on the board, actually, for their varsity football team just won the National Homeschool Championship. Actually won 2 championships. Went to a national tournament down in Florida, Panama City Beach, and beat everybody.
So they're national champions.
They are the national homeschool champions, and CBS Sports high school division, Max Preps, ranked them by far, by a mile, the top homeschool team in the nation.
Wow.
So I've already been in talk with members of the legislature, and they will be honored on the floor of the House this coming spring, just like every other state championship football team
Wonderful.
does.
Great.
Club teams
Praise
is
the
what
Lord.
they are.
Praise the Lord.
So anyway, so that's going on, and I'm going to leave it at that. It's a good show.
Well, let me ask you this, though. We can't leave it like that.
Okay.
I've got to ask the question. So the young men that play on this team, have any of them received offers to play college ball?
Yes. In fact, we had a starting defensive end for OU the last couple of years, as former NOAA Jaguar.
What's his name?
Oh, gosh. You would ask. It was after my time.
All right, it's all right.
So, in fact, when my son was a middle linebacker, the other middle linebacker, Caleb Gastelum, he was recruited by the coach, Brent Venables, when Venables used to be here. And in fact, when they played at Tulsa, Caleb Gastelum, his homeschool kid, got the game ball, full scholarship.
Now, but this team here, we got any kids from this team? Well, do you know them that well?
No, I've talked to the coach a couple of times, the assistant coach, and they've given me
But there should be some.
There are
kids
definitely some Division I offers that are out there. They haven't made commitments yet, but by February we'll have some news of this. And look, it's way overdue. In fact, State Representative Dean Davis, a former coach with Broken Arrow, their tennis coach, he was like, "Oh, we've got to do this. This is way overdue for NOAA."
Yeah.
Because we have had, just top people. When I was, while I was coach on the coaching staff, we won 4 national championships in a row, 4 years in a row.
Wow.
So real powerhouse. And it was started by Joe Blankenship, the brother
of Bill Blankenship.
Right.
In fact, Bill played a key role in helping us get it started. Which, by the way, is that championship game tonight, Owasso? Bill Blankenship's Owasso team?
I don't know. Can you believe that?
I know. I think it's tonight. They're playing the vaunted Bixby.
Yeah. Oh, that's yeah. That's something.
Yeah. So,
on that note,
yeah.
Hey everybody. We've had a long show today, but I think it's been worth it. We were off for Thanksgiving last week, but we hope everything goes well. God bless. Talk to you next week. Henry Primo will hopefully be with us.
Yeah.
Looks like stormy weather forever, and they'll never see the light of day. Paul in silence kept on singing, believing their deliverer was on the way, for they knew